From a bank balance of $3, my guest grew his digital agency to 7 figures a year while managing more than 300 active clients, including names like Adobe. Ugurus serves entrepreneurs running agencies of all kinds, helping them attract clients, win deals, deliver projects, and scale their business. I visited my guest's website and I stayed much longer than I normally do in pre-interview research. Why? Well, I'll let you find out why when you make your own visit. For now, let's welcome my guest, Brent Weaver. Welcome, Brent.
Malcolm, it's great to be here. I'm super excited to be serving your audience, and thanks for having me on the program.
It's a delight, and always a delight to go to Colorado as well. This Brent Weaver BVTV show is in our usual web show 3 parts. In part 3, he will tell you how in his book he helps you become an invaluable expert. In part 2, I'll be asking him what he means about owning the market. And in part 1, you'll get inspiration about the story behind the story. But Brent, before we get started on part 1, give us a brief overview of you and what you do.
Thanks, Malcolm. Yeah, so I'm the CEO and founder of Ugurus. You can think of us as a business school/accelerator for digital agencies. So our clients are primarily web designers, digital marketers, branding people, content people that are looking to grow their business. We primarily work with clients kind of in that 1 to 10 person range. And we've been doing this for the last 8 years. We've helped tens of thousands of agency owners grow their business through our podcast, our educational programs, and coaching programs.
Excellent. Now, thanks, Brent. Let's get into part 1. Why Ugurus and the story behind it? What made you see it was needed?
Well, so Malcolm, I ran my own agency for about 13 years. I started it from my bedroom in high school with a friend of mine. It was way cooler to make money building websites than working at the neighborhood fabric store, which I was making a whopping $6.25 an hour at. And yeah, it wasn't what I'd call high value work. But it was a good job to kind of cut my teeth on getting into the workforce. Super thankful for the time I spent there. And so over the 13 years that I ran my agency, I was what I'd call kind of an accidental entrepreneur. I knew nothing about business. I actually hated the word entrepreneur. I called myself a small business owner, and because I looked at entrepreneurs as people that were these big risk takers and all this kind of stuff, and I just preferred to build websites and make some money in it. And the problem was I spent a lot of time working on my technical skills and not a whole lot of time working on my business skills. And so our business was growing, and we kind of were doing a lot of things that we thought we were supposed to do, like getting a big office downtown, hiring up a bunch of employees. And we got, I would call it dangerously over leveraged. And we didn't really have great strategies for marketing and sales and really running our general business operations. And so in around 2007, now granted, I know there was like this whole global financial thing, but that really had little to do with our failure at that time. We had no systems to get clients outside of referral and word of mouth. And one day we just stopped getting clients, or the clients we were getting, we weren't able to get paid enough. And so our business pretty much almost crashed and burned. And that's kind of where that $3 bank balance comes from. I was literally going into a Starbucks one day, and I always order a venti drip coffee. That's the large coffee at Starbucks, and it's $3.13. And I went up to the counter, and I realized that I had checked my balance that morning, and I had $3. And I had to order a grande, which is $2.86. So I spent my last $3 on coffee, which I'm not sure I'd recommend. But my business partner and I at the time, we had to make a decision. Do we keep running this business and try to fix it and go and kind of reinvent ourselves, or do we shut it all down? And we made a commitment to fix the business. We spent 5 years learning from some of the best entrepreneurs out there in the world about how to run a digital agency. And we started to actually successfully grow and scale our business. We doubled our business every single year until we sold the business in 2012. And so the reason I started Ugurus was because I realized that if I had the resources that were given to me, or that I went and procured, right? If I had those from day one, if I'd had those earlier in my business's journey, that I probably never would have gotten to that $3 moment. I I would have started with the right mindset around marketing and around sales. And so we started to share that story with people, and it really resonated. And I started getting these thank you letters of people telling me, hey, Brent, your content helped me to, buy my first house. Your content helped me finally save for retirement. One guy wrote me this 6-page letter about how he had lost custody of his kids because he basically was kind of a deadbeat dad, and he wasn't able to provide financially, wasn't able to provide child support. And, but he was a great web designer. And he wrote me this 6-page letter about how our sales training changed his life and how he got shared custody back, bought a house, started coaching his daughter's soccer team. And he included a photo of his daughter, in them playing soccer. And you get some letters like that, and you say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should go do this full time. Maybe we should make a business out of this. And that was really the genesis of Ugurus.
Yeah, I love what you do because I know how important it is. I deal with a lot of creative businesses, particularly in helping them win contracts, tender for contracts and so on there. And I go and ask them for business figures that I need to be able to put together the tender, and they just look at me with a glazed look. They don't, all they want to do is do coding or something like that. Sorry, you're in it to make money, aren't you? Let's go to part 2. I love the fact that on your website you give freely of help with some great guides. And by the way, just before I go on to the rest of this question, just to point out everybody, the viewers, that behind me on the screen is the URL to Brent's website, ugurus.com. I'll just say that again for listeners, ugurus.com. Okay, you also have the U Academy and online events. Tell us a little bit about them. But first, I want to talk to you about fixation on the phrase owning your market. What's the story there, Brent?
Well, like a lot of businesses, we got most of our early clients at our agency through referrals, word of mouth, and we weren't really known for anything. And so we came up with this idea after I had unsuccessfully grown my business organically and really wasn't serving anybody. Like I couldn't go to, if somebody said, hey, Brent, who do you serve? I couldn't, I was always like, and I'd like make something up at the spot. Right. And I don't know if you've ever been to those business networking events, right? Whether it's a mastermind or a chamber of commerce event, and, you kind of go around the room and you introduce yourself. Yeah. And I felt like every time I did that, I kind of like reinvented who I served or what I said, or I'd say something really broad. I'd be like, oh, we help small businesses grow. And it was like, I was trying to make everybody happy. And, and I was trying to make sure that nobody in the room felt alienated away from contacting us or doing business with us. And I think that strategy, well, maybe it works well when you're small or where you just kind of have this referral based business, right? Because people know you and people like to do business with people that they have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. When it comes to actually like growing your marketing beyond that, whether it's social media, ads, speaking, right? We didn't really own our market. We didn't really, we weren't masters of like our domain. And so I really flipped a switch of saying, you know what, maybe we should start getting clear about who we serve and really jumping in and saying, hey, this is our people, right? And so we originally started doing that with some small niches, and it took some experimentation, but it got to the point where every time we would kind of find or iterate or pivot to a new niche, we'd go like even more hardcore around our messaging. And to the point now, like where I serve digital agency owners, I mean, I don't serve anybody else. I own this market, not like possessive, but like I own it. Like it is true, right? Yeah. Like I fully embrace who I serve and what I do for them. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm a lawyer and I'd love some business coaching, I'll be like, hey, cool. That's awesome. Like, go talk to my friend, John, who does business coaching for lawyers, right? Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm looking to do some digital marketing consulting for my tile store, right? Hey, that's awesome. You know what? One of my clients probably works with your type of business. Let me go see who I can refer to you, right? If I go and stand up in front of an audience, I'm saying, hey, I work with digital agency owners between 1 and 10 people to help them grow and scale their business. That's a very big market. I don't own the entire market, but I own it in terms of myself, right? I'm 100% committed to that market. And so that's really what our programs help agency owners do, is make that transition from that, anybody can be our client, to really embracing a space and becoming, hardcore experts in that space.
And do you think that sort of approach helps people understand more clearly what's in it for them for dealing with Brent? Everybody says my business is different, and most businesses are the same in certain aspects, but they quite clearly see more what you can do for them because of that ownership.
Well, it's like 95% of business is the same, industry to industry, market to market. That 5% that's different, though, is it makes a huge difference, right? And if you think of it in terms of like even how people dress, I mean, like most people wear pants, most people wear shoes, most people wear shirts, most people wear jackets if it's cold outside, right? Generally speaking, 95% of like the system is the same, right? It's like pants, shoes, jackets, socks, underwear, right? But there's that 5%, right, of like how the shirt looks that can make a really, really big difference. Like, am I going to, Woodstock, or am I going to a corporate business meeting, right? Like, obviously these people have very, very different attire. And so that 5% is critical. And so we actually spend a lot of time with our clients to help them really get into the markets that they serve, to master that 5% nuance, because that 5% nuance is where a lot of the signaling happens with, is this person in our group or not, right? Do they know the language of our niche or not?
Yeah.
One of the early niches that I went after was restaurants, and, restaurants have their own language. They have their own, for them, it's not about, it's not about necessarily customers, it's about reservations, it's about quote unquote butts in seats, right? And these are the things that they care about. They care about gift card sales, right? And they might not care so much about merchandise, but they care a lot about gift card sales, right? So there are these little nuances, this 5%, that each market kind of has. And I think when you own your market, you go in there and you really commit to saying, look, I'm going to master this space. I'm going to go deep, not wide.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that, by the way. I've done 40 years in the tourism and hospitality business. So, and by the way, it always keeps changing, all those acronyms and the goals and everything like that, and hard to keep abreast with that. But brilliant, absolutely brilliant on your concept there. Let's move to part 3. Your book's called Get Rich in the Deep End, and shows you how to own your market to become an invaluable expert for your chosen industry, and obviously build the stable, successful business that we all dream of. There's a lot in the book, as you can find out when you go to Brent's website, by the way, so much more than we've got time for. So I want to ask Brent to use our time left to tell you about the 5 A's that are crucial to scaling. Over to you, Brent.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Malcolm, the book is really our, it's kind of my manifesto around this concept of owning your market. And as the title implies, Get Rich in the Deep End. We really struggled when we were in the shallow end of a bunch of different markets. As the saying goes, we were an inch deep, a mile wide, and we really struggled to scale our business. We really struggled to get consistent leads and clients in that way, right? We depended solely on referrals and word of mouth. And in my niche, when I go to a conference and I say, okay, how many of you here, love getting referrals, right? And everybody raise their hands. Cool. How many of you here, keep your hands up? Most of your business depends on getting referrals, right? About, 96% of the room raises their hand, right? Or keeps their hand up, right? The over dependence on referrals, word of mouth, is one of the biggest risks that I see for service-based businesses, whether it's agencies or other service-based businesses. When people stop referring, it's like, oh my gosh, right? What do we do, right? And it's this fire drill. So we say, look, you should, to combat that, you need to basically build a 5A strategy. And we try to keep it simple, right? This should be a strategy that you can write on a napkin.
Right.
All of my best strategies have been, you can write them on a napkin, right? And the 5 A's stand for audience, awareness, attract, authority, and acquire. And I'm happy to kind of give a little bit of a description of each of those.
Yeah.
So if you've got your napkin, right, and you've got 5 A's written on the top, what we want to be clear first and foremost is who's your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it that you're serving, right? Can you describe them in a way that you could give that one sentence to somebody else, like a Facebook ads expert, a conference, event expert, a social media marketing expert, whatever, an outbound specialist? Could you give this one sentence of who your audience is to that person? And would they have clarity down to like maybe 50 to 100,000 person kind of circle, right? Would they have clarity around where to go target your message? Could they go find channels to reach those people? And that audience should be in alignment with what you're trying to get, right? I say a high value audience is easy to reach. So for a while, I was giving these presentations at the Chamber of Commerce to brand new businesses, and I was trying to sell them $30,000 websites.
Right.
Brand new businesses, they were trying to spend $500 on a website. And I started to believe that nobody had money for websites because I was not in the right audience. Switch that to 7-figure restaurant owners, started going to events where these guys hang out, guys and gals, and I'd go give a presentation and I'd have 6 clients come out of a room full of 20 people.
Wow.
Ready to spend 20, 30K a year because I had that audience piece figured out. The second A stands for awareness, right? So you've got your audience. Once you've got that written on your napkin, then it's awareness. What are the channels that you're going to use to reach this audience? And at what frequency are you going to stay in front of them? A lot of people think, oh, I wrote a blog post once 3 months ago. Why am I not getting all these leads, right? And it's like, well, you got to, okay, that was one little blip on the radar, but we've got to create some kind of consistency, some kind of frequency. So it's both the channel and it's the frequency of staying in front of that audience. Our third A is attract. And this is key because for years, I talked about stuff that I care about. I talked about websites. I talked about content management systems, CRM systems, conversion rate optimization, website analytics. I would demo until I was blue in the face. I would show people all the cool systems that we could build on websites. And, I would just get these people, we can't afford this. We can, can we get this for $1,500? Right? All I talked about was what I wanted to talk about. And I felt like I was shouting. And so the trick here is we attract the right clients by talking about things they care about and really only things they care about, right? And so you have to get in the head of your market and really start talking about the things that keep them up at night. Our fourth A, so on your napkin, to recap, we got the one sentence about who our market is. We got the one sentence about where we're going to reach them. And we want to list out 1 to 3 problems that are bleeding neck problems for your audience. The things that keep them up at night, not the things that you're interested in, but those 1 to 3 things that are bleeding neck problems for that person.
Yep.
And then we've got authority. So authority means how have you gotten people like your ideal audience results? Mm-hmm. What proof can you show? And if you haven't yet worked with your audience, what's the closest proof point that you can pull that establishes you as an expert? Do you have any case studies? Do you have any third-party endorsements? Me being on your show right now, Malcolm, is kind of like an indirect endorsement. Like you've said, hey, we've done some vetting. Now Brent might show up and he might be crazy, but we've done a little bit of vetting, right? And so that's an example of an endorsement, right? Being on Malcolm's show is an endorsement, right? So what's a little bit of an authority that you can inject into your content? And then finally, acquire. We have to have a path to conversation, and it needs to be explicit. You can't just hope that people check out your website and go to your contact form. You can't just hope that you go give a keynote presentation and people come up to you afterwards. You need to give an explicit call to action that gets somebody to take a next step, that it leads to a very direct path to a conversation. Service businesses, agencies, we get sales out of conversations. So recapping our 5 A's on your napkin, you're clear about your audience. You've got your awareness channel defined. You've got that 1 to 3 bleeding the neck problems that you've defined. You've got 1 or 2 things that you can say to build yourself as an authority, and you've got a clear path to a conversation. You have those 5 A's locked into your strategy, and I think you're going to be 10 times as successful getting new clients for your business. Now, in the book, We go into crazy depth on those 5A's. There's a lot of nuance there to really mastering them, like anything in life, right? There's like the high level concept of like, oh, hey, I'm riding a bike. And then there's like, oh, I'm doing, triple backflips, right? So the book helps you kind of make that progress over to, triple backflips.
I love those 5A's, by the way. I love them. And this is one of those serviettes I'm going to take away with me, by the way. I often sit in restaurants and scribble away and then get up and leave. And I've left all the best ideas behind, but I'm taking that one with me, definitely. Those 5A's are brilliant. And so just to remind you all again, viewers, that the URL to go to Brent is on the screen behind me. It's ugurus.com, ugurus.com. Brent, it's been stimulating meeting you and your straightforward thinking. I love those 5A's. There's no doubt about it. In this special Brent Weaver BBTV web show, I've been talking to the person who truly can help you create the business of your dreams. Thank you, Brent Weaver.
Thanks for having me, Malcolm.
Brilliant. Well done.